Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Listeners, here we go again. And I say it almost at the start of every episode. I'm just so excited because I just love to learn. And in researching our guest, Kim Hamer, coming from Los Angeles area, she just has so much to teach us about life. And so really excited for the show. A little bit about our guest. The best place to find her is through her book's website, 100actsoflove.com. Again, 100actsoflove.com, but she is all over social media. And again, it's just Kim Hamer, Hamer. So about our guest, she's an experienced people leader, speaker, author who is gifted in helping managers remove the fear and discomfort around talking to and working with employees dealing with cancer, loss, or other health crises. In Kim's book, What People Say About It, and I quote, "Oh, Kim Hamer, if you've never experienced her writing, I'll tell you this, it will make you laugh and cry all at once, all while nodding your head saying, yes, oh yes, that totally makes sense. And I can do that. 100 Acts of Love is the best of everything she's ever written about caring for and supporting the people you love through the toughest times of their lives. It's an easy read with practical and actual useful information. Nothing in here is especially complicated. Simple acts of love for maximum impact. Not only does it tell you what to do to honor and support others, but she tells you how to do it while loving, supporting, and honoring yourself so that you can give from the right place. Don't wait until you need this. Just get it. You'll be glad you did." Kim, thanks for taking the most challenging experience of your life and being vulnerable to share your story, your personal life, your children's experiences, and so much more to help others navigate with love through their life-altering circumstances. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. And thanks for reading those testimonials. God, that's just amazing, you know? That was not my plan when this book came out, when I wrote the book, but I'm so grateful.
Yeah, no, that testimonial, when I was researching, I was like, and I don't you take this the wrong way, because this show isn't to promote necessarily you, but what you do and your message and your life, and then hoping that the listeners can just take that. So yeah, I have no investment in anybody that comes on here other than I just want you to share your gift and hope that that touches people. So I'm not trying to necessarily push anything, but I want people to know that you've written an amazing book that is doing so much to help a lot of people. So I don't know if that comes across wrong, but, and thanks again for coming on. And your beautiful smile is just making my heart feel so good. And listeners, for those of you that just listen, I'm going to stand up just a little bit, but Kim, I coach a girls basketball team. And so those of you that are just listening, I got love, and then I'll give a little bit of love out to my Winters girls basketball if anybody from Winters is listening. But I had to wear my love shirt if we're talking about 100 Acts of Love. So here we go.
There you go. Thank you. Okay.
Yes. So we always start the show with a thought of the day. And this is a quote that I picked after researching our amazing guest. And this is an original quote from me, Kim. And here we go. Love is an awareness of the emotions you and your partner experience, running to the ones that make your heart pitter patter, and sitting quietly, listening to the ones that cause you to pause. Why would I pick that one for you?
Good. That's really good. Thank you. That's a really good one. I would expand it beyond partner, right? It's for your friend. It's for your coworker. It's for, the neighbor. It's for people, many people sometimes you don't even know, but yeah, I love that. Thank you. That's a good one.
Mhm. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. And I love the listeners just to get to know you a little bit. And this is just a broad question, and you can take it any which way you want. But what was life like just growing up for you?
So I was very fortunate, and I grew up in a community that was small but big. So our town had about 40,000 people in it. And I still am the daughter of two New Yorkers who chose to move out of the city to, have their kids go to a really good school and have good teachers and yada, yada, yada. And I loved growing up there because I felt um, I didn't realize how different I was until I left the cocoon. And I think, and what I mean by that is that I felt very accepted and, protected and cared for and loved and included. And it wasn't until I left that, went off to college that I realized, oh, not everyone sees me that way. And for the audience members, I'm African American. And the community I grew up in was predominantly like 97% white. Um, and so I just had that experience of really not having to deal with race issues too much. I mean, there's still some things that happened, but it was a very wonderful upbringing, and I'm really grateful that I had it because it's a foundational, that's community, that support. It was foundational to really how I lived my life moving forward, which I didn't even realize.
That sounds just beautiful and so nice uh, for you to get that experience and then not even realize that it's become who you are by the foundation that was kind of set for you by your parents making that tough choice. I'm sure it was difficult to leave probably the city that they loved and to go somewhere different, knowing, hey, you know what, we want our kids or our daughter to be able to grow up with a different foundation. And then for you to be, this is a wrong word, but clueless about that until, like you said, you leave the cocoon and they're, well, okay, well, here's what everything mom and dad and this community did for me to allow me to share my gift. I love it. I love it. So the show is called Life's Essential Ingredients. And I definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to get into your book a whole bunch, but I want to know, hey, what is, one, two, three, whatever you want to share. What are essential ingredients right now as you sit there thinking about your life of things that you need in your life every day?
I think self-acceptance, because you can't get anywhere unless the continuous self-acceptance, continuous curiosity. And what I mean by that is taking the opportunity to, instead of kind of being defensive or being scared, just kind of, you can be scared and curious, but to be curious, right? Like, how is this affecting me? How is this affecting the other person? Why do I want to go do that? What is it about a BMW that thinks that's going to, if I buy it, it's going to make me this person? Like, just constantly asking those questions. And I think always having that expanding mind, that willingness to learn and to change. Humility, which is a word that a lot of people don't like, but it is essential. It's an essential ingredient in my life, is really understanding that of myself, I cannot do very much. I need and am open to, and I have a spiritual practice, but I also need people in my life. I need that feedback. I need, I don't know everything and I don't have an answer to everything, even though I think I know everything and I have an answer to everything. So understanding the difference between those, really, being humble enough to understand that I don't know everything, and I cannot make assumptions based on one person's actions. Just because they did something, I cannot assume that they meant X, Y, and Z by that thing that they said. And I think joy is such a key part, and no one ever talks about it. Like, fun is great, but just that sense of joy that, I occasionally skip because it's just fun to skip, right? It's just having those really big belly laughs, and not because the show is funny, but because the moment of connection that you're having with someone, or seeing somebody, do something funny that you really think is, incredibly great. So that sense of joy and wonder is a key. Like, I would actually put that first. So if I
Ah,
did my list over again, I would say joy and wonder is like the base of my foundation. And then I would say humility is the second ingredient of my foundation. And then the walls and the windows are made of the self-acceptance, and the curiosity. So, there you go. There's my list. I
Mm.
think I should write that down.
Yes. Oh man, it's just beautiful, and a lot of people, because I don't promote our nonprofit on here, but in listening to you about your curiosity, I love that word, and that falls under. We have these 4 C's. You know, the nonprofit is called C4 Leaders, and the third C is consistency. And I mean, 2 things, and I'll just share the second part of it: to consistently challenge your thoughts and perspectives to the point of vulnerability, knowing that,
Mm,
hey, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. But when I can allow myself to play in that space, then I truly empower myself and I take pressure off, because I know I don't have to have all the answers. And so I can
exactly.
be curious, and not have to act like I know, which then kind of makes me play small, you know?
Right. Which is the
And then,
humility part of it.
yeah,
That's the so that yeah, that's brilliant. I love that.
yeah. And then I just read, I don't know if you read Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy. And I think it's a couple years old now, but it's really good book, just talking about humility. And
Okay.
and he uses the word sober humility, and it's just humbling. So
Yeah.
really, it'd be a great book. I would recommend if anybody's wanting to work on that. And then I do want to follow up on your word of joy. How do you tap into that? Even let's use, I know you had a busy day, long night yesterday. How do you make sure that you have that awareness of knowing, oh man, I'm tired, I'm feeling a little short, and I need that joy in my life when it might be just not on the tip of your tongue, so to say? How do you capture that each day, and how would you share that with the listeners?
So I have a morning routine that I do every single day. It includes doing some spiritual readings, a little bit of Buddhism, a little Christianity reading. So I do that. And then I meditate. So I meditate religiously. Like this is talk about consistency. My day does not work well if I don't take that 20 minutes to sit still. And the most important thing I do, or not the most important thing, but the other thing I do is I have a gratitude journal. Now, I don't do it differently. I just write 10 things that I'm grateful for. That's my goal every morning, to write 10 things that I'm grateful for. And I purposely make sure that I'm not naming big things like I'm grateful for my next breath, right? Because that feels like I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful where I live. Sometimes those things feel really too big and they feel like I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So I make sure that I'm tapping into small things. So it's things like this morning I wrote, I'm grateful for the hand cream that I have by my bed because my hands are all get all dry, right? I wrote about I'm grateful for my night guard because I felt like I was really grinding last night. um, I'm grateful that I got to sleep in a little bit. I'm grateful that I have a job that I can sleep in a little bit. No, and I'm grateful that the people trust me at my job. So it's really kind of taking those small moments. I'm grateful that I was consistent enough to launch my master class yesterday. So it's really taking those small moments. Sometimes it's like, I'm grateful that my knees are bending, like I can stand up out of bed, right? And so I think having that consistent practice has been really helpful in tapping me into and reminding me about the simple joys, right? I'm grateful that I don't have strawberries in my refrigerator right now, but I'm grateful that I live within walking distance of a grocery store where I can buy those strawberries. So it's just reminding myself of the good things so that when the bad things do happen, when the difficulties do come in, I think what a gratitude journal does is it it dulls the point of the negative, of the pain, right? So instead of the sharp like pain coming in and stabbing you, it almost dulls the pain. And I think that's really the only way I can describe it. So it doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't take away my difficulties. There are days I mean, I was struggling this morning, but what it does is it reminds me that even though this is really hard, there's still good things that are happening in my life. And that information powers me to walk through what is really hard.
How you stated that. And speaking of good things, I know you have 3 beautiful adult children. Um,
Yes.
I want to just give you, should you want to take it, what is it that you love about each one?
Oh, I love this question.
Ah.
So, it's so amazing that you can have, a sperm and an egg get together and you think they're going to produce something very similar, but each time it comes out different. So what I love about my oldest is he inherited the ability to just talk to people and connect with people. So when he was in school, the moms used to say, what I love about Langston is he will come up and he'll say hi to me and he'll come in and ask about my day is. And I can tell that he really means it, or he'll remember about a conversation we had 3 weeks ago and he'll just, remind me about it. So he's got this incredible, infectious personality that makes he makes you feel like you count. And that is something that my husband did really well. My husband could talk to the president of Universal Studios, um, and then also talk to the janitor of the school, the maintenance person. And both of them would be like, God, I just like him so much. He makes me feel so good. So he was really good at that. So that's the talent. That's my oldest talent. The other thing my oldest is very talented at, he's very good at visioning what he wants and just getting it. So, he wanted to be a nurse. He got turned down from nursing school. He said, that's okay. He didn't say that's okay. He cried. He was upset. He was disappointed. He questioned, but then eventually he went back to trying to get the right grades that he could get to get into nursing school. And he got into nursing school and now he's a nurse. So that's what I love about my oldest. What I love about my daughter, because I only have one daughter, is her focused on what she really wants. So when she was applying to college, we were all trying, everyone in my family, my husband's family, were trying to get her to go to a liberal arts school because she wanted to be an artist. And she's like, no, I am going to art school. And she turned us all down and she got into art school and she got this incredible scholarship because that's what she wanted to do. So I love the fact that she's so like, this is what I'm doing. And she's really focused on kind of walking to her own drum, which has caused her a lot of angst sometimes because she's looking at what other people are doing and saying, and she's thinking maybe I'm doing it wrong. But she's very focused on that. So I really love that about her. And then my third, I love telling the story. We were driving back from skiing, and this other person was driving, and the car skidded. It was a very slippery road. It had just snowed, very slippery. Car slid. We were on sort of an area that if we'd rolled off on one side, it would have been very bad for all of us. And this woman kept going on and on and on and on afterwards about how scary it was. And his little 9-year-old self said, person, if you stop talking about it, it will stop being so scary. And then you won't have, then you'll stop talking about it, stop being so scary. Like he just says he's so wise. He's got these kind of pearls of wisdom that a lot of adults, as a kid, he can be seen as being fresh. But he's so right. He's so like, just take it in the moment. He came up to me after my husband died, hands on hip, 7-year-old self. When are you going to get remarried? And I was like, Dad's been dead for 4 months. I didn't know you wanted me to get remarried. He says, he puts his arms up, well, you can't expect me to be without a father for the rest of my life. And then he took his 7-year-old self, turned around and walked out of the kitchen. So
Oh my gosh.
so, but the one thing I love about all three of them is they are joyful. I have never come so close to peeing in my pants when I'm with my children. They make me laugh so hard, and watching them together, making each other laugh and communicating and supporting each other and loving each other is absolutely amazing. I feel like my job is done as a mother. And I hope this doesn't happen, but if something happens to me tomorrow, I know that three of them will be okay because they have each other's back and they bring each other joy. So in the end, it's really what I love about them is their joyfulness when they're with me and with each other.
Mm. Man, thank you so much for sharing. And I can't wait for them to, I can just already tell from the short amount of time that I've spent with you that you don't hold anything back and your kids know exactly how much you love and what you love about them. But it's hopefully they get to listen back to this and just kind of just take that in a little bit And I love how you keep talking about joy and you're smiling, and in preparing for you, I heard that you're a little bit of an amazing comedian. So I got to put you on the spot. We got to have a little bit of fun and laugh. Give me give me your best joke.
Okay, this is my best one, but it's one of my favorite ones. What did one wall say to the other wall? I'll meet you in the corner.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
They're really bad jokes. I do Monday joke days. I love them. They're really bad jokes, but they give me great joy. And so
Uh,
I record them and post them all over my social media. So if you ever need
uh,
a lift on a Monday, please check me out on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram, because that's where I post them all the time. And on Instagram, I have them highlighted. So if you're really having a bad day, you can listen to 4 or 5 jokes in a row. I
uh,
hope that it will lift your spirit.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. I'm not good with jokes, and I might have to start following you just to be able to tap into those. And yeah, I think those people that can just laugh and have that belly laugh, it's just contagious, and it just makes you feel so good, you know. And my wife's one of those people. We'll be like at a movie or just watching it at home, and she's just gonna laugh out loud that you just are just yeah, I love it. I love that part of her that makes me, because I'm not that way, you know, and so
Mhm,
it just helps me feel good. But I want to
mhm,
make sure we save time because you have
mhm.
so much knowledge from everything that you've gone through. So let's get into your book, you know, a little bit. And first of all, just congrats, you know,
Thank
for
you.
writing it, for sharing your gift with the world of, you know, again, the hardest thing that you went through, and saying, you know what, there's a lot that I experienced that can help others. And I'm sure that in your role as a human resource professional, you know, that's what you've always done. And then obviously it became so personal with everything that you've gone through. So share what you want with, you know, why'd you write the book? And then let's get into some of the details of that. And then I would love you to share even before, not to give you too much, but I think we got to honor Art, you know, and let
Mm,
everybody know, you know, who he was and what you loved about him. And I know he was a tall gentleman. Mike is 6'7", and I'm six
wow.
eight.
Okay, there you
Yeah,
go. He was
and
6'6". You guys could have
yeah,
all had a conversation.
I know. So yeah, so jump into that part. I know I just gave you a few things, but yeah, take it away.
Well, they lead into each other. I mean, one of the things I loved about my husband, and I feel like I'm channeling him every single day, is his consistency. He was always really good at, he would bike to work every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You know, he was consistent with how he parented our children. He was consistent. You know, people felt safe around him. Students felt safe around him because he was so consistent. You know, he was never the parent who would blow up. You know, and I was. So that's what I loved about him, is his consistency and his ability. You always felt heard in his presence. And the book came about because when my husband had cancer twice, and each time that he had cancer, and even after he died, people would do these amazing things for us, right? And it just always felt like an act of love. And that's why my website is 100 Acts of Love. The name of my company is, the name of the book is. Um, so it was like, you know, here's vegetable stew, we love you. We're going to pick Art up and take him to the cancer treatment center, we love you. We're going to pick the kids up on Friday, and you're not going to see him again till, you know, Saturday morning at 10, we love you. So every single time, so we're mowing the lawn, we love you. So every single time somebody did something, it just felt like an act of love. And something I noticed when he was sick and after he died was so many people knew what to do, and so many more didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to say. Um, and I realized that I was that person before my husband got sick. And, you know, there's a lot of books out there. If you have cancer, you have a huge option of books you can read. If you're a cancer caregiver, there are some helpful tools out there. But, you know, if you are a friend or a family member who just wants to help and doesn't know what to do, there's nothing out there. At the time I wrote it, there was no book telling you, do this, right? The other thing that I really wanted people to know was I didn't have to make these big, huge commitments. I used to think that I can't really help somebody because I don't like to cook and I can't bring a meal every week for the next 10 weeks. Like, I don't know how long you're going to be sick, and 10 weeks is a little bit long for me to be cooking extra meals. So I used to think you had to commit to help forever, right? That was your goal. Um, and then the third reason I wrote the book was because, after Art died, obviously anyone could imagine how horrific an experience that was. But I built a foundation on my new life foundation was built partly on all those people showing up and helping. So, people will often say, "Oh my gosh, you're so courageous that you've been through this and you talk about it." And honest to God, it's not about courage. It is about my incredible desire to make sure that every person on the planet knows that they matter to somebody else. And I think, we, especially now, we all feel so disconnected. We're on our phones. We think we're liking things and thinking that's enough. But, whoever's listening to this, if you're sitting at home alone, feeling like you're not good enough or you don't matter, that's so not true. It's a lie you're telling yourself. And I'm proof of that, because all these people showed up saying to themselves, I matter to them. There's got to be something I can do that will help them. Let me think about it. And then they took action. So that's really the premise of this book, because yeah, I mean, you matter. What you do and how you show up really matters. And I wanted to give people the opportunity to show up in really easy, simple ways. The book has a chapter of what not to say. The book has a chapter of what to say. And then it goes into how to be really helpful with food. And I will tell you all this right now. Don't bring meals. Just don't bring meals. Everyone else is going to bring a meal. There are so many other ways that you can be helpful with food that don't include cooking a meal. Right. And then it's also about car help and helping with kids, and how do you distract them in entertainment, and how do you help if you don't live nearby, and how do you help if you work with the person. So that was the premise of the book. It's just kind of give people these really simple, easy tips for them to open the book and go, oh, buy a gas card. I can do that. And then run out the door, buy a gas card, drop it off, and say, just say, I love you. I care about you. Here's a gas card. So you don't have to think about finances when you fill your car with gas next time. Right. It's that simple.
And and yeah, I'm just so glad that that book is out there. And just like the person that gave you the testimonial of just simple and practical, because I think, and you've mentioned, we're a little bit distracted now. There's so much going on, and I think that paralyzes us from taking action sometimes. And then, somebody could be experiencing something, and you want to do something, and not that the window or door closes, but I think time just kind of moves on so fast. And then perhaps 1 week has turned into two, and then two has turned into four. And now all of a sudden they're not taking any action. And that voice gets louder and louder, making them feel guilty when they're like a really good friend of yours or the person that's going through, but then they feel like they've let them down. And I don't know if that even makes sense or not, but did you see anything like, did you, when you were going through it, did you not lose friendships, but maybe some people that were like
Oh, Jeff,
close?
no, we lost. Yeah,
Okay.
no, we lost friendships. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anyone who goes through a difficult time will say, I mean, I have not talked to one person who disagrees with me. What happens is some of people who you think are going to show up, who you think have had your back for a long time, that back away, and you lose friendships. And then people who like have just kind of been an acquaintance, they show up to fill their spaces and they become friends. So it is completely common that happens. And for those people, I don't know why it happens. For me, when I pulled away from friends, it was because I was so embarrassed and so ashamed. And I kept putting that on top of it, kind of, I was building like a shame mountain around it. Um, and for that, for those people who haven't taken the action, I would highly recommend that you take the action, because what happens in our heads, we build it into something way bigger than it is. Right? Like my husband died. There's really nothing that you could do shame wise that kind of goes over the fact that my husband died. Right? I think we get into our own heads and we think, oh my God, she hates me, she's going to remember that I didn't do anything, she's going to whatever. And honestly, my husband's dead. Like, that's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on whether or not you showed up in month 2 or month 6. right? I'm really focused on the fact that I'm so grateful that you showed up. And in fact, I love telling the story because a couple of years, actually even like 6 or 7 years after Art died, and that's really how long it took my brain to kind of excise that part, walk through that part of the grief. Um, I started remembering all the things that people had done. I honestly didn't remember, right? I'm in the middle of it. We're this grief pie. I'm trying to raise these kids, who are also grieving and going through, we're struggling financially. Like all this stuff is happening. So I don't even remember. And then when I'm far enough away from it, that's when actually I started to write the book, was because I started to remember, oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, that person, they gave me that, sent me that, someone sent me the massage gift cards. I don't even know who that was. I totally remember I used them. Or, oh my gosh, that's right. She came. That was so sweet. She came and picked Art up several times and then took him out to lunch. She picked him up, took him to chemo, and then picked him up after chemo and took him out to lunch. I totally forgot about that. So it's in a way to say you are important, but you're not important the way that you think you are. The person who's dealing with this is not going to remember that you didn't do anything. The most important thing is just to show up. I think sometimes I know what happens is in our heads, we start to feel like I'm not good enough. They're embarrassed. They don't know what to say. And then they're worried that they're going to say the wrong thing. And they're worried that they're going to hurt the person more by saying the wrong thing. And that's usually what stops most people from saying anything at all. So if I can, I'd like to go through one thing never to say and then what to say instead, because I really want people to be relieved of this thing. Okay. So the most common thing that people say, other than I'm sorry, which we'll touch on in a minute, is if you need anything, let me know. And in my book, it is the first act of love. It's got its own chapter. And it literally says, if you read nothing else of this book, like if you get the book and you decide the book is crap, just read this one thing and it will change the way you support somebody. The reason saying that thing is not helpful, there's really 4 specific reasons. One, the most important thing you can do for someone who's going through a crisis is to connect with them. And I'm not talking about like calling them every day. Really talking about is empathy. Is not coming from, if I were in your shoes, this is what I'm do. That's sympathy. It's coming from, holy cow, that sucks. Right? So just getting into that space. You're not trying to fix anything. You're not trying to make them feel better. You are just sitting in the space with them. So that phrase doesn't do that. That phrase goes immediately into action. The second reason it's not helpful is, what is anything? Like, Jeff, you're a nice guy. Does anything mean that you'd like take your brand new detailed car and pick up my toddler? You're like, I had a toddler at the time my husband was sick. Pick up my toddler, my vomiting toddler at school and drive him home? Or did you mean you'd just be happy to drop off a bottle of wine? Right? Anything is too big a word for anybody. And even in the moment, we do mean anything. I mean, in the moment when you're offering, you're like, if you need caviar from Alaska, I will get on a plane and get you caviar from Alaska. But reality sets in and we don't really mean anything. We have a sphere of which we are willing to operate in and support in, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that sphere. So that's the second reason. The third reason it's not helpful is you end up asking the person who is dealing with this crisis to break apart their day and find one thing that you can help them with. And, we all go on autopilot. When we get up in the morning, we do certain things, we do them over and over and over again. So, understand, it's like, I could tell you that I need toilet paper, but it doesn't even dawn on me that I need toilet paper because I just went and used the bathroom and done. Or I could tell you I need toothpaste, or I could tell you that I need, my clothes washed, but it just doesn't dawn on me that I need those things because I'm going through my day to day as I normally do. And so it's really hard for someone to break apart their day and to figure it out. And then the last thing, the real reason, or the top reason that it's not helpful is, y'all, none of us are good at asking for help. Like when I talk in organizations, I ask everyone to say, okay, raise your hand if you're good at offering help, or if you feel comfortable offering help people, or you like to help people. Pretty much all the room raises their hand. And then I say, okay, keep your hand up if you're good at asking for help. And pretty much the whole room puts their arm down. There's usually 1 or 2 people who have their arm up. It's hard for us to ask for help on a good day. And then this person who's dealing with this thing, they're in this crisis, they are feeling extremely vulnerable. And now they have to ask for help on a bad day and risk you saying no and feeling rejected. That's not going to happen. So unless this person is like your bestest friend who you can like, she's going, you're going to call you up and be like, okay, I'm coming over for an hour. You just tell me to do anything you want me to do. And I will be, I'll do anything you want me to do. It's just not a good phrase. But what is a good phrase are a couple things. One, I always talk about acknowledgement. And the best thing that people used to say to me after my husband died, or even when he was diagnosed with cancer, is, I don't know what to say. Like, what they're going through, if what they're going through leaves you speechless, that's really powerful. You can say, I'm sorry. I know that people don't like that because it feels like it's not enough. But you can just say, I'm so sorry. This is part of your life experience, because you are. It just really stinks. So those are two great phrases to say. The other thing, if you want to go into action, be specific on the kind of action you're willing to take. My book is dedicated to a guy named Kenny. I live in LA. He sells root vegetables at the farmers market in Venice. He also sells other places in the LA. And I dedicated to Kenny because when I told Kenny my husband was sick, he said, if you need anything heavy moved, let me know. And I thought that was a really weird offer. I was like, okay. But he said it a couple times. It stuck in my head. My husband had cancer. 7 months later, he was cancer free. Less than 2 years later, it comes back. He's got cancer again. 4 months after that, he's died. We're dealing with grief. At some point along the line, we had a grand piano and I wanted it moved. Who do you think I called? Kenny made an offer. Exactly. Kenny made an offer the first time my husband was sick, and I remembered it. So being specific is really, really important, and offering more than once. Every single person who's hearing this has a helping superpower. And we actually have several helping superpowers. We don't know. We have things we like to do. Maybe you like to do laundry. Maybe you like to take care of cars. Maybe you like to get cars clean. Maybe you like to vacuum. Maybe you like organizing projects. Maybe you like putting together agendas, right? If you're at work, maybe there's things we all like to do. And that thing you like to do may be the thing the person needs the most. So don't be ashamed of what it is. I do not ask me to cook you a meal, to bring over a meal or whatever, or to order you a meal. I can't do it. I don't know. I was like, I eat a certain way and I'm always worried that no one else is going to eat this. Like, I just feel uncomfortable. But you can ask me to go grocery shopping, because if there's that one thing that you need to find that the guy says is coming in on Monday morning, the 5 a.m. truck, I will be there at 5 a.m. to pick up that one thing. I love grocery shopping. I love the hunting for the items. So we all have our helping superpower. And once you find out what that is, that's how you support your friend. And even if they don't use it, even if they never call you, you are bringing them comfort because they know what to call you on. They know that you will be there for that one thing. And they might even, especially if you offer more than once, they might even call you and go, hey, I don't need my car filled with gas, but I really need some pasta right now. Any chance you can run out and get it? And you're like, yes, or I can't today, but please call me another time, right? So you've made that connection with them that they feel comfortable asking, and that's so very important. So that's the one thing that I want people to walk away knowing, is showing up is so important. You cannot ignore it. You cannot ignore their thing. There is no one right thing. You can't fix it. You're not going to fix it. It's not your job to make them feel better or to look on the bright side or to stay strong. That's not your job. Your job as their friend, coworker, manager, neighbor, is to just honor what they're going through and to find one little thing that you can do to make their life easier.
Kind of just hit it, and I want to be respectful of your time, but there's two other key areas that I want you to address. And obviously using your expertise as a human resource professional, because I think sometimes it gets tricky on the business side. And I don't know if you spoke, I was interpreting everything that you were talking about more so for the receiver and then the person that's going to be giving that gift and being specific, all the stuff that you just shared. But what about at work? And that's, again, so broad. If you can narrow down you know, even, yeah, just take your expertise and help people
Mhm.
focus in that space of things that they could do at work for someone that's going through this challenge.
Exactly. Well, I actually work with managers who are dealing with employees who are dealing with cancer, loss, or depression, because I think it's a tool that most managers don't have and they don't know what to do. So, a couple things. I have a 5 point strategy, and I always say, speak. So, make sure you say something, right? Even if it's the wrong thing, you can always go back and say something, say the right thing. But when you ignore it, that is just so basically what you're saying when you ignore it, you're saying you don't matter, right? And that's not the message you want to give your employee or your colleague. So you can, like I said, go and say, I don't know what to say. The number two thing I advise people to do is walk through your feelings. Now, there's actually feelings and stereotypes. We have a lot of stereotypes about what we think we would do. Let me back up. We have stereotypes about what people with cancer look like and act like. We have stereotypes of what grief is. We have stereotypes of what depression is. And so when we don't excise or come clean on what we think, those stereotypes that we have, we actually end up doing more harm than good. Because if someone thinks, well, if my partner died, I would not come to work and they should not. And then you think, well, why are they at work? They should not be at work. Then all of a sudden you're coming from any comment you made is coming from a judgment side that they shouldn't be here. You don't know what you're going to be like in there. So just excise all of those stereotypes and excise your feelings. It's painful to watch somebody in pain. If you've had an experience with cancer, or maybe your brother died of cancer 3 years before, or maybe you just finished your own, entanglement with cancer, and now your employee has cancer, that just hurts, right? It just hurts us. It makes us very sad for people. Write out all those feelings because they will leak out of you one way or the other. And if you're feeling resentful that you think that that they're going to get more attention, which is a perfectly normal feeling. Like, I don't want people to think, oh, I just have to be sad. You can be pissed, you can be resentful, you can be jealous. Like, all those feelings are normal feelings to have when someone you care about or someone on your team is like getting all the attention. It's like, oh, they're getting all the attention. I hate that. But whatever you do, write them out because you got to get them out of your system because they will leak out of you. The third thing I have people is just assess, like, figure out, if you're a manager, what is the person's prognosis if they have cancer. In the US, you can't ask specifics, but you certainly can ask, how often will you be working? Right? So make sure that you really understand as a coworker, do I have the bandwidth to help them with their projects? Like, that's a really important question to ask yourself, because you do not want to go in. Our instinct is to go in and help. And in the moment, we'll take everything on. 6 weeks into taking everything on, you're exhausted, you're pissed, you're overworked, you're feeling unappreciated. So that wasn't the smartest thing to do. So really, to understand what you can do as a colleague, what you're willing to do. Maybe you're willing to take on the agenda for meetings, right? Maybe you're willing to maybe you want to take them for a walk every Wednesday, but be very, think about what bandwidth you have as a colleague. And for managers, think about your team. What kind of bandwidth does your team have? Do you need to bring in someone from the outside to help take off some of the workloads? How does that work? Then number four is when you take action. So this is anything that can be, like I said, the work or the agenda, helping with the agenda, but it's also putting together a communication plan, right? You need to understand, what does your employee want? Do they want to talk about this? If they do want to talk about it, what do they not want people to say to them? You can teach your team how to support an employee. You can teach your team to say the right things, right? To say things that are helpful. So having that conversation, putting together a work plan. If you have an employee who is going to be out 2 days a week, well, they're not going to be able to do all the work that they normally did on 5 days a week. So what kind of work plan are you going to put together with this employee so that they remain engaged and so that everyone knows what this person is going to be doing, and then the rest of the team knows what they need to do to help with that project. So those are the kind of thoughtful actions, and that also extends to organizations. What can they do thoughtfully? And then the last thing is reflect, and the reflection happens in many different ways. Reflection is the employee who's been, being treated for chemo for 4 or 5 months, and now is coming back to work. So what does that mean? You can't just take everything away from everybody else and give it to them, right? You have to kind of think about, what are we gonna do moving forward? Sometimes, our coworkers die. what do we do with that? How do we give our team the opportunity to reflect, to miss, to honor the person who is no longer with us? Right. So and those deaths, they happen cancer and then they happen on suicide. Right. So how do we help our team kind of reflect and take this moment to nurture them and to support them as they move forward? So those are those are the five things that I work with. It's called the North Star strategy. And you can apply them to work. You can also apply them to your own life. So really understanding, I'm helping, I'm supportive, I'm in there, I really want to do it. And then I need to take a pause because this is hard. Like, it doesn't look like my friend is going to live. Like, I need to speak to her, to him. I need to write about this. I need to get all my feelings out because it just makes me feel so sad. Right. And so instead of burying ourselves in TV or whatever we do, we go to our phone, we go to food, we go to alcohol, we go to all these things, all because we don't feel like we can deal with these feelings. But if you deal with these feelings, if you take a minute to just journal for 5 minutes, if you have that courage, because helping takes courage. And it's not the Mighty Mouse courage of like, here I come to save the day, right? It's not that kind of courage. It's the courage to feel the feelings, to be scared, to be uncomfortable, and to take action anyway. That's the courage we're talking about. And when you really want to support somebody who's dealing with a difficult time, you're going to feel out of control. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel scared. And then you're going to take action anyway. And that's courage.
And I'll call that love too. It's crazy how this thought of the
Amen.
day always comes, because the last part of the definition that listening to the ones that cause you to pause, of just those emotions, and those ones could be defined in so many different things. All right, why am I feeling that? Let me listen to that. Let me pause. And then, okay, now I figured out what I'm feeling. All right, well, let me take action towards making that need met. Man, again, we're on season 2, episode 44 with Kim Hamer. Definitely all this knowledge has been incredible. 100actsoflove.com. Again, just and I'll use the word simple, but it's not simple because it's been thought out and it's been something you've lived and researched and practiced, and that's what I when you find people that can take a difficult subject matter or whatever that is, and they can make it simple. Those are the people that have so much great experience, that in my mind are the gurus that you need to surround yourself with, to allow you to then take their gift and share it with so many others, which again is what you're doing with your book. I know we got to get out because we're going too long, but I do need one, and you're not gonna be able to give me a short answer, but there's two last things that I want to ask you. Best thing that you did for your children, because we really haven't talked so much. We talked about your kids, but for a listener who's has a significant other who's going through what you went through, what was the best thing in the darkest hour that you did for your kids?
Sit in the pain with them. And that was really hard. As a mother, you always want to protect your children. That's what we are taught that we're supposed to be doing. And I could not protect them from the loss of their father. So sitting in the pain with them and allowing them to sit in it. So actually allowing them to sit in their own pain. So that was the basis of my teaching them how to be resilient.
Great tip. Last question, and then we're out. I end every episode with this, and it's a quote from John Alston: "The only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind." So you're a young, beautiful woman. You have hopefully another 50 years in you, and now you're on your deathbed, and you're getting ready to take your last breath. You have all the people that have been instrumental in your life, your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren at this time. What is it you want them to feel as you're getting ready to go see art?
This is going to make me cry, but I want them to know how much they matter. I want them to just know how much they matter. So that is my wish for my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids, and everybody. I just You're really important to people, and you are uniquely qualified to help someone in the unique way because of your life experiences and everything you've been through. And so you matter to somebody, to a lot of people, and I just want them to really take that with them. Wow, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I'm tearing up as well. We've been on with the amazing and talented and giving and loving Kim Hamer from Los Angeles. Again, find her at 100actsoflove.com. Get her book and reach out to her with any of your questions or anything. Kim, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Mm.
We always end with boom, baby. That just happened. We out.